Hello guys, welcome to another weekly breakdown video. In this week, today I will be breaking down the second week of October, the data of second week of October. As we can clearly see, just by one instant I can say the market is trending bearish. The previous 2 weeks was making bullish pin bars, clearly showing that the momentum might shift to bullish. But now, after seeing this candle right here, I decide my weekly bias by looking at the previous weekly candle. So this is clearly a bearish pin bar, clearly showing that the bears were stronger throughout the week this week. So my bias was bearish on GU. To confirm that, I went to DXY. So when I went to DXY, I've seen a bullish pin bar and a very strong bullish sign in a bullish market. So this gives my bias even more reasoning. So now we go to EU to confirm my bias for the last time. Even EU was giving a bearish pin bar, so my weekly bias was clearly bearish going on to the week. That was my weekly bias, simple. I want to keep that simple. I don't want to overcomplicate anything. I mark this demand, this draw of liquidity. If I'm bearish, this is my target, right? This is my change of character, this is my break of structure due to this demand. So now I go to the daily time frame and let me show you the trades from where I was looking to buy, from where I was looking to sell, if I was looking for something, from where, right? That's what matters. And in the weekly time frame, this was the draw of liquidity if we were bullish. So on the daily time frame, there was a supply zone, and it was also making a left head and a potential right shoulder, as we know from our previous strategy, but we will not consider that because we are not trading that strategy right now. We are trading SMC, which we are trading with the big banks, right? So Thursday and Friday closed very bullish. So on Monday, my bias was bullish, to be honest with you. But it also makes sense for the market to come back, fill up this fair value gap, and then continue to the upside. So this fair value gap was so relevant to fill. There was also a fair value gap to the upside, but here it also didn't make sense to fill up this fair value gap, because if the market is coming to fill up this fair value gap, it also can continue going to the upside, something like this. So going on Monday, my bias was bullish. So let me show you if my bias was bullish, from where was I looking to buy or sell from. So going on Monday, if I show you my 4-hour analysis quickly, on the 4-hour I look for market structure, price action. So I was looking to sell from this sort of supply zone right here, which I refined it, and if in DXY it will be something like this. But I will not show you each and every analysis on this weekly breakdown video because it will be a very big video. On the DXY I will only show you the analysis, sorry, the bias selection. Here on Monday, it was so clear that I was looking for sales from this sort of the supply zone right here on the hourly. Why? Let me show you. On the hourly time frame, I was looking for sales from this sort of supply zone. So I waited for the Asian high to get swept. Obviously, if I want to look for sales, I need the Asian high to get swept in GBP USD and Asian low to get swept on DXY. You can also argue that there was a supply zone here, but it was in the Asian range. So what I did was I considered this supply zone here to be the liquidity sweep and the move to happen from that supply zone right there, which is, to be honest, a low probability trade. Because of this, the bias is not yet clear. Just because one weekly candle closed a bearish doesn't mean that it will go down. And also we know the weekly profiling. If my bias is bearish, Monday, Tuesday can make the up move. Still then we are not yet wrong. Just because the Monday and Tuesday's candle went up doesn't mean that we are wrong. So what I did was I waited for this liquidity to get swept. You can argue there was inducement right around here. I entered the market there, and this was a break-even trade. So this was a losing trade, to be honest. This was a losing trade, and I take losses as a part of the game. I've accepted losses as a part of the game. So this was a losing trade on Monday. Let me show you. Monday did something like this. So now we go to Tuesday. Simple as that. On Tuesday, my weekly bias is bearish, remember that. So only the trades that align with the weekly bias will be considered as a strong trade. Now let me show you these call outs one by one. Every day start your win. Read this. You are not always going to get perfect sniper entries in the market. Yes, 100% agreed. you are not always going to get your 10 pips stop loss or 8 pips stop loss. If the risk to reward makes sense and the bias is strong enough, only if the bias is strong enough, take the trades. You can take the trades. SMT is strong, to be honest. SMT also works. SMT with DXY, the bias was clear. This happens on Wednesday. I will show you then. This was on Wednesday, and this was Wednesday. There was a confusion whether the market will go up or down. Also, one thing I've learned in this week was, whenever there is confusion in the market, the bias is not clear, the daily and the weekly bias are not aligning with each other, that is the perfect time to not trade. Not trading is also trading. Whenever the bias is not clear in the markets, don't trade until it's clear, because it's like forcing a trade. There you aren't putting the probabilities in your favor, and you are trying to force a trade, which is the last thing you want to do in the markets. When the market provides you an opportunity, that's when you should grab it. Until then, no, you can make something out of nothing. So on Monday it closed as a bullish candle, so now my bias going on Tuesday is bearish. If it's bullish because of how this candle closed, but it's not aligning with my weekly bias, remember? So that's why it was not a high probability to trade. And also, if I show you the news, Monday there was no that high impact news, so it was cool to trade. Whereas on Tuesday it is average earnings index, core retail sales USD. So on Tuesday, let me see if I traded or not, and let me quickly show you the DXY bias also. So on DXY, this fair value gap was getting filled. So what made sense for me was, on DXY this fair value gap can get filled, right? And on GU also that fair value gap can get filled. So DXY I was looking for sales, but it was not with my bias, so it was a low probability trade, to be honest. And I don't trade if my biases are not aligning with each other. So also it made sense to go and look for buys here. So just because I'm backtesting in the live markets 100%, I would not trade this, but just because this was backtesting, I guess I tried to buy this market. Let me show you how. So going on Tuesday, if I show you the Asian range, because Asian range decides our bias, Asian range decides our zones that I'm gonna trade, so it's very important. Also, in this demand zone was valid due to this change of character right here. This was a lower high that caused this lower low, and the market, once the market body closed above that lower high, it is now bullish, right? So this change of character was a confirmation or a sign that now the market is bullish, and this demand zone is valid right here. Also on hourly time frame, this hourly candle showed so much bearish momentum right here, and if I show you this, I look for buys, which was a very low probability trade because it was not aligning with my weekly bias. So let me show you quickly. I lost this trade on London session. Also, this demand zone was not one of the cleanest demand zones, and the first demand zone was not respected here. The first demand zone was here, not respected. Second demand zone was here, not respected. And also, I've learned one more thing here in this while backtesting this week was, sometimes we adapt to the market, we adapt the zones. The closer the zone, it works, right? And the other times it won't work. It's part of the game. Sometimes it will work, sometimes the same thing you do and you won last time, it will not work. The trades that you take before has nothing to do with the trades you are going to take in the future. So you have to create a state of mind that is not affected by the market's behavior, and you don't compare the trades that you are taking. That's how you become a profitable trader. So Tuesday I would not trade, but if I traded, obviously this was a loss again. So at the end of the day, if the bias, the only lesson I'm getting right now is, if the bias is not clear, don't trade. So look at this. Monday went up, Tuesday went up, down, and also a bullish pin bar on Tuesday. So on Wednesday my bias was literally not clear. Now let me show you what I've written here. SMT with DXY was clear on the bias. Okay, so on Wednesday the bias was not clear, and that is the reason I didn't trade it on Wednesday. There was confusion whether the market will go up or down after analyzing DXY, so GU and EU. So after, let me show you what I've written here. So GU is looking like it's a bullish pin bar, right? Whereas DXY is an indecision candlestick doji. Whenever the market is presenting that candle, we don't want to be a part of the markets. And even on EU, it's not clear enough. GU makes sense to go and fill up this fair value gap because DXY has already went and fill up this fair value gap. But also, just because the DXY has filled up the fair value gap doesn't mean that it will go and fill up the fair value gap. Might be it has now enough liquidity to continue heading towards the downside. So Wednesday was literally a very, very low probability day to trade, and also the market is now ranging. The market is not trending right here. The market last week was trending. We caught beautiful trades, right? Now the market is just going up, down, up, down. The market is ranging and just going up and down at the same place. So this is the condition we don't want to trade, to be honest. So now we go to the H1 time frame to look for zones that I want to trade from if I am trading. So my bias on Wednesday was literally not clear, and if I show you the news on Wednesday, there was GBP CPI news. So also I don't trade CPIs. I have totally CPIs, NFPs, those days I totally don't trade, because I have, from my backtesting, I have got a result that those are the days we don't get results. This was a continuation setup, to be honest. If I was looking for buys, it was beautiful continuation, but just because it was a CPI day, obviously if it is CPI, then the markets are very high, tend to be manipulated on CPI. So on Wednesday also we didn't go to trade. Overall this week was not a great week to trade, but obviously just because the markets are not good doesn't mean that I will not analyze, right? Those are the conditions which teaches us the most. So now after waiting for Wednesday, my bias was a little bit clearer that now it might be continuing, might be the market has made the high of the week. I'll show you. I considered this to be the high of the week, like the bearish weekly repricing, make the high of the week and continue to the downside, something like this. So keeping that in mind, I was looking for sells on GU on Thursday, and DXY I was looking for buys. Now finally the bulls are starting to show some buying pressure right here, and it also body closed above the previous daily high. So going on Thursday, my bias was little bit clearer than Wednesday, looking for sells. So if I want to look for sells, I will have to look for supply zones. So let me show you. So I was looking for this supply zone right here, because this was the closest supply zone. I consider this to be the break of structure, and to be honest, not one of the cleanest zones to trade from, but it is what it is. So now I go to the lower time frames, and also on Thursday there was US unemployment claims news and no high impact news, as in like CPIs and PPIs. So still we could have traded. I was looking for sells, so there is no way I would have taken this buy right here. Now an interesting thing happens here. SMT with DXY, the bias was clearly bearish. Going on Thursday, I could have taken this trade, to be honest with you. This trade I could have taken and probably won a 1:3. This was the, look at this. If you are patient enough to wait for your bias to make sense, only trade with the bias. Look at here. You won this trade, right? So if I show you DXY on M15, it swept the Asian low, right? We need the Asian low to sweep for buying, for bullish bias, whereas Asian high to get swept for bearish bias. On GU, the Asian high didn't got swept, but on DXY, the Asian low got swept, which gave us enough confirmation. That's called SMT, smart money technique. They do this on purpose to fool us and have the move. So this was a winning trade. Thursday was a winning day, but I have not backtested it because overall this week was not a great week to backtest. I have already backtested and journaled one trade on Monday. This would have been a winner trade on Thursday, but just because it didn't sweep the Asian high, I didn't journal it and I didn't make a video, but I'm making it now. So you can argue that this was a winner trade, but I will not consider it. So now going on Friday, let's see. But after that, after giving us our 1:3, it literally reversed on us. So now going on Friday, the last day of the week, not an ideal day to trade, but clearly a perfect doji. This candle indicates that the buyers bought the market, sellers sold the market, and eventually it came into an indecision. Trading is a battle between the buyers and the sellers. We know we have to, every candle forms for a reason. Once you understand, there are three types of candles, right? Decision, indecision, and reversal candles. Once you can understand all of them, you can read these market movements like a book. So now looking at this, the whole week was so bollocks. It didn't do nothing, as we can see here. It was just moving up down up down. It was a indecision week. So now in this kind of markets, what I like to do is I will not trade. Just on Friday, I literally didn't mark any zones because it didn't make sense, mate. it didn't make sense to do anything in this kind of markets, because when the market is not giving you anything, the last thing you want to do is force a trade, right? As we know. So now on Friday I didn't do nothing. I was looking for nothing, but eventually we got the sells and we also got the buys right here. So sorry, that was not the one. So on Friday the market went down. Eventually the buying happened here, but eventually I was not looking for anything on Friday, so it is what it is. So if I show you the weekly closed something like this. Obviously the week didn't do nothing, so it has to close something like this. It was a doji week, and sometimes the market will do something like this. The market will be doji, will not give you nothing. That doesn't mean that you will not monitor the markets. Those are the times you learn, and when the market is trending something like this, those are the times you trade and you go on risk on. This is the week. You will get to know if the week is something like this. Obviously you will wait patiently for the indecision to complete, and then the market to catch a trend, and then trade with the trend. The trend is your friend. If you trade with the trend, you make money. If you don't, you lose money. That's all. Here also you can see on the weekly time frame, the candle closed a very small candle in indecision. So overall this week was not a great week, but it taught us a lot of things, so it is a win-win.